like something that seeks its level. I wanna go to the devil, wanna be evil.
Two seasons in 1 year. That's one of the main reasons why you might buy a second home in the Alps. You've got the winter season and you've got a lesser summer season, but as they used to say in Aspen, Colorado, you visit for the winters and you stay for the summers. But we're not talking about Rocky Mountain highs, we're talking about Europe and not the high of Switzerland and Austria and France necessarily. Not the Verbier Martigny, the Saint Anton of the Tyrol, and Chamonix and Morzine of France, where property values really are at a premium. But with such a large percentage of the owners of those being British, with Brexit, now's your chance to bag a bargain. There will be people that are finding it too awkward, annoying, irritating to bother with, just offload it. Rentals or part rentals might be frustrated a little on lower values. If it's not giving the yield, it's not quite such an emotional purchase for the money might be better invested elsewhere. When I'm talking about ski properties, I'm not really considering the Bulgaria, Slovenia. There are good options there, but I don't really want to address those social issues. The Tyrol of Italy is much more interest to me. And even there, with the duality of seasons, of wanting to have the winter and the summer season, there's Cortina right the way over, and Venice is an option there if you're halfway between the two. And of course there's Verona, not so far from Feltre, a personal favourite where there was a huge chateau, let's call it, for sale recently, a sanatorium. But I'm digressing, because for most of you, around Lake Garda and Verona would be a good option for getting to the Salva ski resorts, a huge ski area in the Tyrol. There's not so much in the way of resorts all the way across the south-facing Alps in Italy until you get to north of Turin, Aosta, Soz-Toulouse, Cormeo. But in terms of location, Italy is really considered a bit of a second division compared to Austria, France even. In none of them, the market is fairly static. There isn't a lot of new development comes up, is what I'm getting at, the supply. So prices are fairly constant, slowly improving all the time. But the likes of the British Telegraph newspaper will make an article of how, in the shadow of Verbier, with access to the same ski runs, you can bag a bargain for only around $500,000 on the French side, or down valley a little bit. I'm not really concerned myself with that part of the market. There is that, the other side of the mountain, down valley, shadow of the famous resorts elsewhere, of course. Chamonix, there's Salanches. And while the three valleys in the Tarentaise doesn't have the cachet of the four valleys of Verbier, and it doesn't have quite the strength of two seasons, though it definitely does have a second season. The three valleys, Courchevel, Méribel, and Val Thorens, it's not quite as accessible by car from England as Chamonix. But there is Val d'Isère further up the valley, but then slightly more remote. There's several other Tarentaise well-known ski resorts, each with their different emphasis, and central to those is Bourg St Maurice. This is what I'm bringing you to, really. I'll suggest to you that for a purchase for a second home in the Alps, Bourg St Maurice is one of the best affordable bargain locations that you will find. It's in Savoy, France.
I wanna be nasty, I wanna be cruel, I wanna be daring, I wanna shoot pool. And in the theater, I want to change my seat, just so I can step on everybody's feet. I wanna be evil.
Now, ways and means of
I wanna
buying
hurt for
second-hand scheme property.
I wanna
You
sing
want to be snow shore, so you want high,
like the guy who
glaciers nearby. I'm not talking you through the buying process. It's not really what this is about. It's, there are life annuity ways of buying, and there is something that's fairly foreign to the British person, Viager. These are much more common in Paris and the Alps Maritimes, Provence, coastal Côte d'Azur properties. Anywhere in France, you don't really get the pain in the backside of you have to rent it for a certain period of the year like you get in Austria, and sometimes foreigners can't even buy in some cantons of Switzerland. But I'm digressing. The life annuity and viager of an old person or an old couple living in their Paris apartment that they've always owned, or their Côte d'Azur home that they've retired to, or possibly might be a second home. There are a fair few viager companies that will advertise a property not really for sale as such. You're not really renting it either. They're sort of renting it. You're renting it from them. Well, what you're doing with Viager, you're sort of making a gamble. You're giving them a deposit, say 20% of what their properties is worth, and you're paying rent to them to carry on them living in their property. And when they die, you're going to get the property, from your point of view, for the deposit that you've paid, and however many months rent that you've paid them that's accrued until their dying day. Now, there are very strong laws on you can't go anywhere near them, you can't harass them, you can go to prison, sort of thing, obviously. But you'll see, slightly confusing, but once you've got your head around it, very explanatory information about each of the properties, postcode, where they are, how old the man is, how old the woman is that lives at the place, what deposit that they want, because it can vary hugely, and how much you're paying them per month for them to stay in the property. This does occur all over France, and it's much more rare in the Rhone Alps. As I say, Paris and Côte d'Azur, Provence, where it proliferates. How do you feel if you've always wanted a Paris apartment, paying, say, £250,000 to an old lady, 93-year-old lady, and estimating how long she's going to hold on for, how many months you have to pay her approximately rent, but you may well save a third on the £370,000 asking price? How do you feel about it when it's, say, a 85-year-old man and a 75-year-old woman? It might be a lower deposit. The monthly income that they get from you for their dotage years would likely be contributing to good nutrition and good health in Cannes or Antibes. But don't forget to factor in the appreciation, which isn't quite the same as London or something in boom times. To work out your slightly grotesque yield, you can knock that off the rent. And that property in Cannes or Antibes, they don't come up very often. This might be the only way of getting one. In certain locations, it will eventually be yours. So long as you drive carefully and all that sort of thing. Don't drink, don't smoke, and what do you do? Surely subtle innuendos would follow. It must be a bit of a social faux pas for this to come up at a polite dinner party, that this is what you're doing. But then, consider it from the other point of view, that when you are that older person, you can have the life of Riley in your final years if you're not too concerned about your children disowning you. When you look at some of the offers, it can seem like it's a little bit stingy for the person getting the deposit and getting the monthly income until their dying day. They're probably the ones you want to go for as a buyer. A chancer or a gambler, what do you want to call it? And even within this Viager concept, which isn't any worse than British mortgage buyback companies do for us in England, rip-off wise, I haven't quite figured out the large deposit or the large monthly income, which would be the teaser of a low deposit and then a high. You might always come across a disreputable person that's going to organise an accident for you, I don't know. But I think more detail on another occasion of the idiosyncrasies of different life annuity and Viager in France. Oh, I haven't researched what other countries they do it in. But the Swiss are known for their healthy living, aren't they? Oh, such distasteful blog this is. It's like the opposite of name dropping, isn't it? But so often mine are.
Just as mean and evil as I can be. I've posed for pictures with ivory soap. I've petted stray dogs and shied clear of dope. My smile is brilliant. My glance is tender. But I'm noted most for my unspoiled gender. I've been made Miss Rheingold, though I never touch beer. And I'm the person to whom they say, "You're sweet, my dear." The only etchings I've seen have been behind glass, and the closest I've been to a bar was at ballet class. Prim and proper, the girl who's never been kissed. Well, I'm tired of being pure and not chaste.